talk about the worst mom in the history of moms, let's talk about the case of Diane Downs, who literally attempted to murder all 3 of her children in order to get a man to fall in love with her. So what exactly creates a monster like this? Well, Diane was born August 7th of 1955 in Phoenix, Arizona. Most of her life, she was pretty well behaved, but she started to rebel against her parents around high school. She cut her hair, had a really edgy phase, and got super boy crazy. And she started to date guys, which was way outside of her strict family's rules. And she fell in love with a boy named Steve Downs. They were high school sweethearts, but the second that college hit, they ended up going separate ways. He joined the Navy, and she went to Pacific Coast Baptist Bible College. And while they said that they would stay faithful to each other, she immediately started to hook up with other guys when she got there, and was expelled for her promiscuous behavior, and had to go back and live with her strict parents. While Steve came back, he forgave her, and they ended up running away together and getting married on November 13th of 1973. They were known to fight constantly, but in 1974 they had their first child together, making everything worse.
Am I the asshole for having my wedding ceremony in sign language? I'm 24 female, deaf, and growing up, my parents got me bilateral cochlear implants and forced me into mainstream school. Never taught me sign language and never immersed me into my culture as a deaf person. They were actually pretty against me using ASL at all. Well, I took ASL in high school against my parents' wishes and then got into a deaf university. Although I couldn't sign fluently when I started, I finally felt accepted and understood. The deaf community was nothing but welcoming. I became fluent in ASL, and after a few months, I stopped wearing my processors completely as there was no need for them anymore. I honestly didn't realize how alone I had felt until I didn't feel that way anymore. I met my fiancé at college. He is from a very large family of deaf people, and everyone is fluent in sign. We've been together 4 years now. He proposed last May. We've been planning the wedding and have decided to have it fully.
Storytime on how I found my daughter without even looking for her. When I was 15, I got pregnant by who I thought was the love of my life. But as soon as he found out that I was pregnant, he said he didn't want anything to do about it and that if I wanted, I could get an abortion. I'm not gonna lie, I was thinking about it. I decided to tell my mom. I was scared at first, but then I remembered my mom and I have a really good relationship. And she told me I had 3 options. I could have the baby, I could have an abortion, or I could have the baby and give it up for adoption. I decided to have the baby, which later on I found out it was a girl, and then give her up for adoption because I wasn't going to be able to give her the life that she deserved. And I said that maybe in the future, I would look for her, explain to her what happened, and tell her that I could be a part of her life if she wanted me to. Well, in 2015, I was able to open my own little coffee shop where I hired 3 employees. By that time, I was married and had 2 wonderful toddlers. Well, from the 3 employees that I hired, one of them was my daughter, but I didn't know it at the time. Running out of time, follow me for part 2.
If anyone's wanting to know how to get revenge on someone who spread rumors about you, listen to this story and it may come in handy. So I had a friend that we can call Miranda who was obsessed with me. I was genuinely friends with her, but she would never give me a break. I could not get a breather from her at any point in time. Everywhere I went, she went. And Miss Girl would actually get so upset with me anytime I would go over to another friend's house. I knew she was really insecure and just trying to get attention, so I tried to be patient with her. However, one day I just could not take it anymore. I got into a massive fight with her over how overprotective she is. I literally said, "You are a stage 5 clinger." And in response, this girl ended up joining my basketball and softball team, which I've been on for forever. She told her mom that I was bullying her, which was a complete lie, but then her mom went to the coaches. She got me kicked off the team and then continued to spread rumors about me. I ended up losing my best friends and even my boyfriend over the rumors that she spread about me. So that's when I decided to get revenge. So I decided that I was going to send her over an apology gift with makeup in it, which was a mix of drugstore items and poison ivy.
Toxic best friend story time. So I had an off and on friendship with this one girl. In my freshman year, we became friends again. And she had this boyfriend named Nicholas. And they literally fought 24/7. And every time she would fight, she would be like, "Can you please fix this for me?" So she would have me add him on Snapchat, fix it, and then block him. And guys, this literally was happening like 5 times a week. And then after she asked me to do that the first few times, I realized she started going through my phone. And when I say my phone, I mean my whole motherfucking phone. A bitch was going through my Snapchats, DMs, text messages, and I didn't know how to confront her because that's just weird. So the one day I was getting ready at her house because we were about to go out, and she was like, "I'm grounded, can I use your phone real quick?" And I was like, "Yeah, just let me Snapchat this last person back." And she goes, "No," and rips the phone out of my hand. And she starts going through my Snapchat right in front of me. And I had a streak with this kid named Nick. She goes up to me and says, "What the fuck is this?" Like for part 2. Extremely toxic best friend story time. So when I was in 8th grade, there was this boy. And this boy would go around telling almost every girl that he liked her. And I was one of those girls. And he would do stuff with all of us. And there were like 11 of us. So we all hated each other. Especially this one girl, and we're gonna call her Abby. And every time we saw each other, we would be super mean to each other. Well, a year passed, we stopped talking to this kid. And I bumped into her at homecoming and basically apologized. So after that, we became best friends. And everything was good until every time I told her about a guy, she would start talking to them. Like this one boy that I was Snapchatting and talking to, she accidentally sent nudes to him and said, "Oh, sorry, I meant to send them to my boyfriend." So then she called one of my other best friends and said, "No, it actually wasn't an accident." And of course he told me because he was my best friend. So I was like, whatever, and stopped talking to the boy. And she did it again, like for part 2.
I got pulled over today, and the cop comes to my window and goes, license, registration, and proof of insurance. And I look at him, I say, "Officer, I don't have my license on me, I don't have my registration, I don't have any proof of insurance." So then the cop looks at me and goes, "Then why the hell were you speeding? I caught you going 90 and a 65. And I look at him and I say, "Officer, the reason I was speeding was because I just killed my girlfriend. I chopped her up and I put her in my trunk." So the cop backs off my window, says, "Listen, boy, wait right here." And he calls every cop in the area to come look at my car. So my car is now surrounded by cops, and the chief of police does a whole check. He checks my trunk, and all he finds is a backpack. So then he comes to my window. So the chief of police comes up to my window and says, "Listen, the officer who pulled you over said you had no driver's license, no proof of insurance, no registration, and that you just chopped up your girlfriend and put her in the trunk. But when I looked in the trunk, all I found was a backpack. I found nothing." And I look at the chief of police and I say, "Yeah, I know. This lying son of a bitch probably told you I'm speeding too, right?"
Okay, so story time. So basically one time in 5th grade, my dad took me to get breakfast from Dunkin' Donuts. We went there before school like always, and as we were there, this strange man outside was staring at me and like making faces. Super creepy. We didn't know him or anything, so we walked inside and I was kind of freaked out. I told my dad that I was creeped out by him and he told me that nothing bad was gonna happen. Or so he thought. So we got our foods and we ate it. Everything was fine, chill. After we were done, we got up to leave. The man was gone by now, so I felt better But then on the way to my school, I saw him walking on the sidewalk. Like, I figured he was going to his house or like somewhere else. When we got to my school, no one was outside. It was kind of weird. We went to open the door because my dad was a part of the PTA, so he came in with me. The door for some reason was locked. My music teacher out of nowhere ran out and brought us inside quickly. She told us that our whole school was on code red. Scary. And that a man was in our school, so we went inside and I went and hid in the music room.
My boyfriend showed up to my house randomly one day. I had just woken up and I got ready so fast in my room. Mom told him that he could wait in the living room. She ended up jumping in the shower. I went outside to the living room and we ended up going to his house. And I was there. My mom called me. She said that there was $350 on the table and that one $50 bill was missing. I couldn't believe what I was hearing, but I had to find out the truth. So I told him to take me to Jack in the Box. We went through the drive-thru. I was so mad, but I had to keep it together. I knew that he only paid with 20s. He never paid with 50s. I ordered my food and I was waiting to see what bill he pulled out. And guess what, guys? It was a $50 bill. Then I looked at him and told him, "Don't pay with my mom's money." I grabbed my purse, pulled out a 20, and told him, "Pay with my money." His eyes just popped open. He knew he got caught.
So when I was a sophomore in high school, I had this teacher who would only let the students in her class use the restroom one time per semester. Well, one day I raised my hand and I was like, "Excuse me," I don't remember her name, "can I please use the restroom?" And she was like, "No, you can't because you've already used the restroom in my class this semester." Well, excuse me, you can't dictate my bladder. So I'm like all frustrated and I started secretly texting my mom because I wasn't allowed to use my phone in class. And I was like, "Mom, I'm sitting in class right now. My teacher won't let me use the restroom." And she was like, "I'll take care of it for you." And I was like, "Okay." So like 5 minutes goes by and all of a sudden my teacher's phone starts ringing and she walks up to it and answers it and she's like, "Hello?" "Yeah. Okay, thank you." And then she walks up to me like so angry and she like slams the pass on my desk and she was like, "Since you have to go that bad." And I was like, "Yeah, I really do. Thanks." And I got up and left. I didn't even have to go to the bathroom. It was just the principle of it. I just roamed the halls.
This is the reason why girls lie about having a boyfriend when guys try to talk to them. Last week, there was a woman in Harlem, New York, and she was brutally attacked by a man after turning him down. This 31-year-old mother went to go buy a bottle of wine after work. Two men walked in the store and one of them offered to pay. And she politely declined and said no thank you and that she could pay for it for herself. When she got ready to walk out, the men basically said that she thinks she's better than them. The men followed her out and threatened that what was she going to do about it. So she tried to ignore them and go about her day. Then they chased her across the street, kicking her, and one of the men tried to bite her eye out, but ended up biting her forehead, leaving a deep wound. She was screaming and she just wanted to get her daughter.
Part 2.
My mother-in-law tampered with my birth control, resulting in me getting pregnant 3 months postpartum. My husband, 22 male, and I, 20 female, welcomed our daughter into the world 18 weeks ago. She's a darling baby and really pretty easy as far as newborns go, except for one. She wasn't a son. My in-laws were obsessed with the idea of us having a son, to the point that they denied she was a girl up until the moment she was born. Why? Because the bloodline follows the father. If you don't have a son, our family name will die out. The day they came to visit in the hospital, my in-laws asked when we would be trying for another baby. We kind of just laughed it off, but my mother-in-law got more insistent, straight up telling us, y'all need to try for a boy. Over the next month or two, the conversation about us having another baby sort of tapers off into little comments every now and again. Around this time, mother-in-law started coming over daily.
Story time about how I came out as bi to my parents. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. It was sent to me on Instagram. By the time I was 12 years old, I definitely knew I was bi. By the time I was 14, I'd already had a girlfriend and a boyfriend, but my parents did not know any of this. When I was 15, I even had a girlfriend for a full year. She would come around the house and I would say that she was my friend. But one day my mom walks in on me and my friend making out on the bed without our shirts on. My mom was so horrified that she actually ran out of the room. Later I explained to her that we were just playing a game and that it was popular at school. I basically convinced her that I was not bi. Or at least I thought I did. Later on that day, my dad comes to my room and basically asked me if I liked girls. I swore up and down that I didn't. Then when I was 16, I found myself having 2 girlfriends, don't ask me how. Again, they would each come over and I would just say they were my friends. I thought I was home alone, so I invited my girlfriend over. We start fooling around and that's when my door opens. My dad is looking at me getting it on with another girl. Part 2 is up.
Today at work, I was trying to call my wife, but for some reason, my phone calls weren't getting through to her, so I used one of my coworkers' phones to dial my house number and call home. So I call home, and a sweet voice answers the phone. It's my daughter. I go, "Hey, cutie, how you doing?" She goes, "Hey, daddy, what's up?" And I go, "I'm just at work. What are you and mommy doing?" She says, "Well, I just finished lunch, and mommy's upstairs." I go, "Cutie, what's mommy doing upstairs?" She goes, "She's with Uncle Paul." And I go, "Uncle Paul? We don't have an Uncle Paul. What do you mean?" She's like, "Yeah, she's with Uncle Paul. They're upstairs in her room." So I'm like, "Cutie, that doesn't sound right. So what I want you to do is I want you to leave the phone on the kitchen table, go upstairs to your mommy's room and say, 'Hey, daddy just pulled in the driveway,' and tell me what happens, all right?" She did it, and like a minute later, she comes back and picks up the phone and goes, "Okay, daddy, I did it." And I go, "Okay, what happened?" She goes, "Well, mommy came running out of her room naked, and she tripped down the stairs and bumped her head, and now she can't get up." So I was like, "What about the other guy?" And she goes, "Well, Uncle Paul tried to jump out of the window into the pool, but he missed and hit the floor. Now he won't wake up." So I was like, "We don't have a pool." Then I look at the phone number and I was like, "Oh, sorry, wrong number."
Like in elementary, I was bullied a lot.
One day, this girl, we'd call her Jenny. Jenny was having a birthday party.
So obviously I wasn't invited, so I basically begged for an invitation. And I remember Jenny was like,
Okay, if you're like my servant for like a week, like I'll give you an invitation.
long story short, I was a servant for a week and she gave me an invitation to her party.
This is the best part. It's the best part. So finally, party day came.
My mom was driving me to the party. We were going to the address that the girl gave me. So we finally get to the house. The house was looking dead. Like it didn't have balloons, nothing. So I was like, maybe they're just not done decorating. So I go and knock the door. And you know who answers the door? You're never gonna guess who. My fucking teacher. It was my teacher's house. Jenny gave me the address of my teacher, not her fucking birthday party.
This is why karma has no deadline. I'm a middle school dropout and I became a depressed shut-in from the age of 14 to 20. When I was 20 years old, I got a dog who completely helped me turn my life around. I named him Sherlock, and because of him, I started going outside more to take him on walks. Then I got my GED and started going to college with the intent of giving him a better life. I was 24 and living at home with my brother and my father. Around this time, my brother got a girlfriend. A week into their relationship, Sherlock bit her ankle. It didn't break skin or do serious damage, but everything went downhill because of this. My brother and his girlfriend plotted to kill my dog and throw his body into the river. However, my brother couldn't bring himself herself to do it and told me everything, followed by breaking up with his girlfriend. A week later, she was kicked out from her residence and my brother ran to her rescue. After they got back together, she would call me using his phone to threaten and scare me into thinking that she would murder Sherlock. I put Sherlock in a training class to sort out his biting issues and he made major improvements. I was stressed and always kept him locked in my room while I was at work for fear of my brother getting to him. I told my brother that I was actively looking for an apartment and would be moving out soon. However, one day when I came home from work, Sherlock was gone and so was my brother.
Oh my god, did you see the new girl?
What new girl?
Over there. I think her name's Jenny.
Is she pretty?
No. What a pity.
Let's go see if her daddy's got money.
Oh my god, hey, your name's Jenny, right?
You could be a model if it weren't for your height.
Oh my god, I see it.
Don't you though?
Wait, really?
No, you stupid hoe.
Let me guess, you care about your grades, you set the dinner table, and you make minimum wage.
Shut up, your Chanel bag is so cute.
It's fake.
Ew, her Gucci boots too.
Fake designer? I guess that means you're broke, right?
You walk to school while we catch private flights.
Oh my god, did you get those jeans from Sears? Aw, I think I see a tear.
Just kidding, don't take any of that to heart. If you want some advice though, here's a place to start.
Fix your teeth.
Brush your hair.
You should shave.
Everywhere.
I'm so sad.
These are things.
We're just mad.
We're not fake.
Wanna go shopping? Duh. Sorry girl, there's only room for two.
Around a year ago, my husband anxiously sat me down and told me he had discovered he had a long-lost daughter. According to him, he had an ex he got pregnant as a teenager, but she moved away before she started showing and without telling him. She gave birth and kept his daughter a secret from him. Eventually, she put Kat up for adoption. Kat now tracked him down and wanted to get to know him. As I am unable to conceive on my own, I was very enthusiastic and encouraging of them meeting. I asked him about DNA testing or speaking to the mother or adoptive parents. He told me all of that would come in due time, but based on the details she shared with him, he was 90% sure she was his biological daughter. Their first few visits together were private, but eventually we had a big dinner at my house. My husband has seen Kat numerous times since then, both with and without me present. About a week ago, a young man I've never met before messaged me on Facebook. He was Kat's ex-boyfriend and he wanted me to know that this was the woman my husband had been sleeping with. He must have misunderstood Kat's relationship with my husband. When I asked my husband about it, he started crying. He thought I went through his phone and found the text messages between him and Kat. Messages when she was in character, which is how he segued into telling me that they're in a fake, incestuous daddy-daughter relationship.
Can you solve this mystery? This is a story about two young girls, Mandy and Melissa, who were identical twins. But one day they were kidnapped by an unknown man. No one knew who the kidnapper was, but something isn't adding up here. All the clues to what really happened are hidden in what I'm about to say. So Mandy and Melissa were born to a very rich family. They lived in a large mansion with their father and older brother. Everyone was jealous of these girls because their father loved them so much and gave them everything that they wanted and all of his attention. But one tragic night, the girls were taken. When they woke up, they were blindfolded and tied to chairs so they couldn't see a thing. They were terrified. Suddenly, Mandy heard a high-pitched voice whispering in her ear. It was the kidnappers. He said, "I've contacted your parents and I'm demanding $1 million ransom. If you try to escape, I will kill Melissa." Then Melissa heard the same voice whisper in her ear. He said, "I contacted your parents and I'm demanding $1 million ransom. If you try to escape, I will kill Mandy." So who kidnapped the twin girls and why did they do it? Can you solve this mystery?
Story time about how I found out my daughter was being abused by her teacher. This story is anonymous. Now, once my daughter Emmy had finally turned 5, I finally put her in school. She was such a people person, she made friends so fast. The first week of her being there, she already had play dates and buddies she wanted to bring over to the house. Except for after about a month into school, her behavior changed drastically. She was a lot more quiet, she wasn't nearly as talkative. She wouldn't play at recess anymore. So I sat her down and I asked her what was going on at school. I'm like, are kids being mean to you? Are you not getting along? What's going on? And she's only 5. I don't know where she learned to behave like this. She would literally say, "Oh, nothing's wrong. I just have a lot of homework to do and it's stressing me out." 5-year-olds don't get stressed out about homework. It's 1 + 1. So I knew that was all wrong. So I scheduled a meeting with some of her teachers to see if I could talk to them about what's going on in school. Her main teacher agreed to meet with me, like for part 2.
I get a lot of comments calling me weird for doing makeup. But truth be told, I've been trying to live into this image that people painted for me my whole life. Like playing sports or trying to get into the military, but I couldn't because I had heart surgery. I've always been into makeup, but when I started to get into it when I was 17, my dad used to really call me rude and homophobic slurs that really made me lose my passion. I was also insecure on how the rest of my family was judging me and also the outside world. But doing makeup is something that I love and also a part of who I am. So recently I've been just trying to embrace myself a little more and the talent that I've been gifted with. I've never opened up about something this personal on my TikTok, so this is just something a little more vulnerable that my followers could connect with so they can feel like they know a piece of who I am and where I come from. Now that y'all heard my story, I want y'all to rate this look.
Usually when my clients arrive for their appointment, they're not wearing any makeup. But this girl wore makeup to the appointment just to have me take it off and then do her makeup again. I thought that was a little strange, but after I removed her makeup, I saw her nose. The tip of her nose was bright red and even a little bit deformed. It looked like a really, really bad sunburn. I tried to avoid the area when I started doing her makeup, but eventually I had to put makeup on her nose. And when I did, it was just not working. Her skin was literally peeling off. The makeup would not stay. So that's when I asked her, is there something going on with your nose that I should know about? Let me also just say that at this point, it was starting to swell and was noticeably more red than it was when she got there. That's when she told me that she had recently been out of the country for a mission trip and that she had picked up a flesh-eating bacteria, which had affected her nose. Then she told me not to worry because she had been on antibiotics for months, and that the irritation on her nose was just her skin healing. For once, I was horrified, not my client.
Better for women, because let's face it, it's ridiculous. We're the only animal on the planet that pretends like the female of our species is weak. Have you guys ever met a woman? Not weak at all. No. Could you imagine ever pretending like any other animal was weak just because it was the girl of that animal? You'd never be standing on the beach going, oh my God, I can't believe that Larry just got eaten by a girl shark. Girl sharks be crazy. Yeah, they're emotional eaters. She's like, I had a bad day. Larry. Then she's like, why did I eat all of Larry? Bridget, why didn't you split Larry with me? Now I feel like a sea cow. Thank you, Aunt P. Lee. Thank you very much.
When I was younger, there was a girl I knew who lived in our neighborhood. None of the kids liked her because they claimed that she stinked and acted weird. When they talked about her, I kind of felt bad, so I became friends with her. Yeah, of course, I got the, why do you hang out with her? But she really wasn't all that bad. But her scent, they were kind of right about that. One day, she invites me over to her house, and she was very excited because she told me I was the first person to ever come over. And I felt so honored, so I went. But when I went into her house, it smelled very bad, almost nauseating, but I didn't say anything because I didn't want to be rude. She had a lot of uncles that lived with her family. Honestly, it was like 4 to 5 families in one house, to be honest. But she first introduced me to her stepmom. I said hi to her, but she just stared at me in disgust. Then we went to her room to play. As it got later, I told her I needed to go home. But she begged me to stay longer because she was scared. I told her I'd come tomorrow, and she just starts crying. She runs into her bed and falls into her sheets, which lifted her skirt. There were bruises all over her thighs. Let me know if y'all want a part 2.
This is how I met my soulmate without ever actually speaking to him. I work at a small family-owned ice cream shop. This really cute guy would come in every Friday around 5. I never actually took his order as I was the one making the cones and sundaes behind the counter. He would always tell my coworker taking the orders, I want whatever she's in the mood to make. Tell her to surprise me. And he would point me out. My coworker would deliver the message and he would look at me and smile. Each Friday when he came in, he would say, I'll have my regular order, whatever she wants to make. I made him something different every week. I try to be creative and give him something new and fun every time. I would try really hard not to look over at his booth, but I would always catch myself staring. He started leaving me little flirty messages on his receipt with a small cash tip at his table. I started to write back on his orders with caramel or chocolate sauce on his plate the best I could. However, it wasn't very legible or practical, so I started giving him flirty little sticky notes with his order. It made my Fridays really fun and something to look forward to. I was waiting for him to ask me for my number or to ask me out on a date so we could actually talk to each other. This went on for weeks until he finally made the cutest move ever.
This boy lied about his age just to date me. Story time. So I ran into his cousin who just so happened to go to the same school as me. What a small world. Anyways, we start having a conversation and she asked me, oh my God, are you dating Binky? And I was like, oh, how do you know that? Because at the time, I didn't know that she was his cousin. And he didn't go to the same school as me. So I didn't know how she would have known that. And then she tells me, oh, that's my cousin. As we're talking, she says, oh, are you gonna go to his birthday party? And I'm like, no, he actually didn't tell me he was having a birthday party. Weird. And she's like, yeah, that's really weird because it's like coming up next week. And I'm just sitting here like, well, maybe he'll tell me. He probably just had a lot on his mind. And then she says, I can't believe he's gonna be 16 already. Time flies. We're gonna throw him a sweet 16 party. After she says that, I just look at her like, you mean 18, right? Like, you said 16. I think you meant 18. Sorry, there has to be a part 3.
Storytime are the most dirtiest college roommate ever. By the way, we're calling her Jessie. So I moved in before Jessie and I get settled and decorate. The next day, she comes and throws her bag on the bed, then leaves. I thought it was weird because she didn't even say anything to me. Couple hours later, she comes back and I'm like, hello? And she's like, my bad, and comes gives me a hug. She smelled very bad. She starts unpacking all of her clothes and blankets, but they smelled like mildew. Anyways, a week later, there's this party going on for freshmen, and she goes, but I stay in because I had a migraine. I told her that when she comes back, can she keep the light off? Now it's 2 a.m., and she comes back in very loud, uses the bathroom, then goes to sleep. And now I'm up, so I got up to use the bathroom too. When I sit down on the toilet, I feel something very squishy. It was dark because, like I said, I had a migraine. I get up, turn the light on, and I was sitting in her shit.
Part 1 of how I stole my boyfriend's side chick. My boyfriend Zach and I decided to check out a new restaurant in town for date night. We got in his car and started to head out. He usually has better cell coverage than me, so we were using the navigation on his phone to get to the new spot. I noticed his buddy from work, Matt, was texting him as usual. However, this time I noticed the heart emojis out of the corner of my eye at the top of the screen from Matt, which I thought was weird. I started to think about it, and Matt would always text pretty late at night, and my boyfriend always seemed really happy when texting him. I played it off like I was going to look for a faster route, picked up his phone, and quickly copied down the number. When we got to the restaurant, I started paying attention and noticed Zach texting throughout our date. The next day, I called the number and a girl named Jessica answered. He saved her number under Matt and told me he was a buddy from work for months. We started talking and she told me that she had no idea that he had a girlfriend. She also told me that they met on Tinder and they've been talking for a while. She was really honest and cool about it, and she was just as mad as I was. We decided to meet up and talk some more about what we were going to do to get back at him. This is when things got interesting.
So there I am making out with my best friend's boyfriend in his bedroom. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. After we kissed and cuddled for a while, of course I had to go home. After that, he started asking me to send him pictures, and I told him I couldn't do it because I felt guilty. He was dating my best friend after all. Then stupidly, I gave in and I sent him the picture because I just felt pressured by him. Finally, I told him that we couldn't keep seeing each other because it was just wrong. We agreed and stayed friends. Of course, I caught feelings and I was totally heartbroken. Oh, and did I forget to mention he was my first kiss? After a few days, I noticed that he unadded me from Snapchat. I messaged him and asked him why. He said he was catching feelings for me, but that he didn't want to lose his Playboy reputation. Got upset and ignored his messages, but that made him want me even more. Part 3 is up.
So yun na nga, yesterday at around 4:30 p.m., I was walking along West Avenue to meet my dad. Binaba kasi ako ng Grab malapit dun sa office ng tatay ko, masyado pang maaga. So naghanap muna ako ng pwede ko matatambayan, so I decided to go to Starbucks. So while I was walking from Starbucks to Kowloon House, merong kotse na tumigil sa gilid ko. The person inside the car happened to be a guy, and he wanted to ask for directions. So tinanong niya ako kung nasa West Ave daw ba siya. So sabi ko sa kanya, yes, you're in West Ave. Tapos tinanong ko siya kung meron pa siyang tanong. So tinanong niya ako kung saan daw ako pupunta, and if I needed a ride. So sinabi ko sa kanya no, and I'm gonna meet my dad. Pero hindi pa siya kontento doon. Ayaw niya pa akong paalisin kasi meron pa siyang tatanong sa akin. So I stayed kasi akala ko talaga naliligaw siya kasi he sounded like a foreigner. He has like a Chinese accent. Then he asked me if he could get my number and if he could give me a ride papunta sa pupuntahan ko. Well, of course I said no, duh. So I was walking away, right? I was walking as fast as I could, and then napansin ko na parang sinusundan niya ako. So syempre I have to stay vigilant, so tinitingnan ko siya every now and then. So napansin ko na binababa niya yung bintana ng passenger seat. And before he even got the chance to say anything, inunahan ko na siya. Medyo malayo yung distance ko sa kanya, pero sumigaw na rin ako. Sabi ko sa kanya, kita mo yung traffic enforcer na yun? Gusto mo doon tayo mag-usap? Then after that, umalis na siya. So I continued walking to Starbucks, tapos may nadaanan ako mga lalaki na katambay. So pagdaan ko, narinig ko yung isa sa mga lalaki, sinabi, ay, sarap ni Lady Gaga. So syempre ako, bad trip pa ako sa nangyari sa akin, di ba? So ang ginawa ko, pinakyo ko siya.
I literally want to cry. So if you didn't know, I have a sister, and her name's Ashley. And we both have boyfriends. And every night we both fall asleep on the phone with our boyfriends. So one day we're all hanging out and we're like just talking. And my sister's boyfriend looks at me and he's like, you need to stop going into your sister's room in the middle of the night. And I look at him and I'm like, what are you talking about? I don't have a reason to go into her room. Like I don't go into her room, especially in the middle of the night. Then my boyfriend hops in the conversation and he's like, no. He's like, no, I hear Ashley go into Kayla's room every night and stare at her. So me and my sister both look at each other and we're like, we don't go into each other's rooms, do we? And we agreed that we do not. And they said this has been going on for months. So for months, somebody or something has been going into me and my sister's room for about 15 minutes every night and watching us sleep. But it only gets worse.
Give me your answer, do. I'm half crazy. All for the love of you.
One of the most insane serial killers I have ever learned about, I still to this day believe didn't work alone. So you guys know Jack the Ripper, right? Well, this guy not only outlasted and outdid him, but he put New York in one of the biggest states of fear and taunted investigators for years. Before we get into who he is and why I don't think he acted alone, let's talk about what he did. The first kill he ever made was stabbing 2 young girls on Christmas Eve of 1975. At this time, New York was an absolute shambles. People were being killed and assaulted all the time. Robberies were happening, bodies were being found, and the police really couldn't keep up with everything, so whenever this happened, it wasn't like a big news headliner. Well, a few months later, 2 girls were shot sitting in their car. Both of them ended up surviving, but it happened so fast that they didn't have any information on the suspect. Just some .44 caliber bullets left on scene. Well, the next attack occurred whenever this couple was sitting in a car. They reported that the whole car felt like it exploded, and the girl looked over and saw a bullet wound in the guy's head. Because of the bullets used, the police were able to make the connections.
My mother-in-law tampered with my birth control, resulting in me getting pregnant 3 months postpartum. My husband, 22 male, and I, 20 female, welcomed our daughter into the world 18 weeks ago. She's a darling baby and really pretty easy as far as newborns go, except for one. She wasn't a son. My in-laws were obsessed with the idea of us having a son, to the point that they denied she was a girl up until the moment she was born. Why? Because the bloodline follows the father. If you don't have a son, our family name will die out. The day they came to visit in the hospital, my in-laws asked when we would be trying for another baby. We kind of just laughed it off, but my mother-in-law got more insistent, straight up telling us, y'all need to try for a boy. Over the next month or two, the conversation about us having another baby sort of tapers off into little comments every now and again. Around this time, mother-in-law started coming over daily.
3 months after I was born, my family moved into a different house in a new neighborhood. My mom told me that after we moved, even though I was just a baby, I started acting differently. She said that in the middle of the night, she'd hear me laughing, and she'd look at the baby camera monitor, and I'd be standing in my crib reaching out, as if there was someone in the room I was reaching for, but there was no one there. Once I got older and started talking, my mom told me that I would always talk about the man in the hat, and sometimes I would get upset and start crying and ask my mom where he was because I wanted to play with him. But my mom thought I just had an imaginary friend. But as I grew up, the man in the hat never went away. I kept talking about him. Eventually, my mom got worried and took me to a child psychologist when I was 5 years old. And I don't really remember it, but during the sessions, the psychologist would ask me questions about the man in the hat. But apparently, whenever she referred to him as my imaginary friend, I would get really angry and defiant and say he's not imaginary. And when she asked me what he was like, I was able to describe him in vivid detail. He wore a blue baseball hat and dark glasses at all times, a long-sleeve turtleneck, and pants. After 5 sessions, the psychologist concluded that I probably just had a really intense imagination, which is common for little kids. But the psychologist warned my mom that she should keep a close eye on it.
Imagine TikTok being so powerful that they actually help you identify the person that almost murdered you. On my For You page the other day, I found this viral video that you guys might recognize, which states videos I took before almost being hunted and murdered. I clicked on her page, listened to her story, and was like, I have to know more. So I reached out and got the full thing. This is the case of Flowers Don't Growl. April 29th through April 30th of 2019, Taylor and her boyfriend Chris decided to take a trip to Falls Creek Falls, Tennessee. Taylor was 5 months pregnant at the time, so they figured they needed one last little trip before they were going to have a baby. And Taylor swore that Chris was going to propose. So that's why she documented so much of this trip, not even realizing that later on it was going to be used as evidence. So they set up at their assigned camping lot. They spent their time hiking, exploring, having fun. Taylor would collect flowers along the way to document it for memory's sake, but please keep these flowers in mind. And then on the second day, everyone from their assigned area was gone except for them. So they were more alone than before, or so they thought.
Makeup that's good for your skin. We're so conscious about the ingredients in our skincare, but what about what goes into our makeup? That's what inspired our philosophy of if you cannot eat it, it does not belong on the skin. All our products are made with food-grade ingredients that enhance and protect your skin. In fact, you can probably find most of our ingredients in your kitchen. They're made with vitamin and antioxidant-rich oils like avocado oil, olive oil that deeply nourish your skin, while pigments from fruits like cherry add a beautiful color.